What's up, everybody? This is Jason from the Tone Lab, and welcome to another episode of Chillin' in the Studio. And today, I've got an old friend of mine. Our guest today is Elan Schwartz, man. What's up, brother? How you doing?
What's up? How are you, man? Good to see you.
Good to see you, bro. Thanks for coming on. And usually I got my co-host, Tony Engel, but we've been mixing it up a little bit. Today, I'm joined by Kim Rudy. How you doing, Kim?
Doing good.
Thanks for coming on. And so, a quick backstory, I guess. Elan, man, you've been in the music business and the Colorado area for a long time. Played in, I don't know all your bands, so we'll go through them. But you're in Apathy, playing drums for Apathy for a while, and then you switched to more of a promoter or a booking agent kind of a role, and that's Bands for Bands Entertainment, right? And I always thought, man, what a hard transition. So I just thought, with everything, I haven't played a show and since like I don't know, 2007, 2008, and a lot of stuff has changed since then. And so I appreciate you coming on. I wanted to get you on here and just kind of talk about the music business in general. And so thanks for coming on, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I'm happy to be here. Nice to see some old friends, and I know you're not here in good old Colorado anymore, man. You're recording in Oregon?
No, I'm in Idaho now. Might as well be Oregon. I'm super close to Oregon, but yeah. Mm-hmm.
Nice. I love Idaho, man. That's a nice spot too. I went there to Coeur d'Alene, actually, and it's super beautiful out there, man.
Yeah, it's I actually haven't been that far north yet. We're on the eastern side, so we're just up like 3 hours from Salt Lake and kind of close to Yellowstone and that. And so was Apathy probably wasn't your first band, was it? Or was it like your first kind of big band? Did you guys start pretty young in that?
We did, man. It wasn't called Apathy, but it was a lot of these same friends that kind of went and jammed out, and we we started weeding out like who could really play, man. We had a good friend of mine, Rodney West, man, who's actually doing independent films now. He still plays some classical guitar. Super creative dude, man. Always had a lot of respect for him. He still lives out here in Colorado as well. He would come down and jam. Again, my friend Frankie. What we didn't have, man, and this is still to this day, is there's just not a lot of bass players out. Where the hell are all the bass players? Still to this day. So, but we had enough people to jam. There was, we were kind of just rotating just different dudes who wanted to hit the drums. And I guess it's, at some point everyone said like Elan is the one that could really play, and the rest of the guys are just kind of hitting stuff, And so that formed into us truly creating a band and wanting to do some stuff in high school, like talent shows. And I don't know that we had the name for a while. I want to say we called ourselves, it was definitely called different things, but it was like the same group of dudes that eventually evolved into what would be Apathy. And me and Brian are the ones who kind of outlived all these other guys that weren't as serious. We were like, we want to play. There was just a point where him and I realized that it was a serious thing. We really did want to play. And when him and I sat in front of my house for like a good solid year, just like, where can we find other musicians? This is after these high school buddies and this whole circle of just jamming kind of faded out. Like, we wanted to be in the studio. We wanted to do things. We were trying to get these guys into the studio. And we still literally have a cassette tape that is called Apathy. It's on a cassette tape.
Nice.
We spent maybe like $500 on this entire recording. Everything was recorded full on live. And we mixed and mastered live too. So we just recorded and then sat there on the board and we adjusted volumes. When you listen to this tape, bro, it's so fucking funny because you can hear the volumes doing this, but for the time, we didn't have a lot of money. So to be in a studio and have something that was semi cool, you had them playing it to friends in high school. People thought like, Absolutely. Oh my God, like these guys are the real deal. But listening back on it now it was definitely trash as far as the recording, but we had some really great ideas for being so young, man. It was definitely cool stuff,
What year was that? Do you remember?
I want to say that was like 97, around there. I mean, if Brian Ortiz hears this, he's going to be like, he's like the history buff. He's going to know like the exact month and year. I'm more like, it's around that time, but I would say it was around, around 97. And we had that recording. It was really tough to get, these dudes that helped us write these songs in the studio. I'm pretty sure there was, and this is where I'll be a little careful because there was some drama around this back then. And even to this day, I feel like, it's funny how even shit that happens way back then will come back later on and be like, that's not what happened. So I'll be a little bit careful, but it was really hard to get particular people just to commit and really want to go in. So, we were struggling just to get people to show up that were in the band to the studio to put their parts down, man. If I remember correctly, we were like, we'll pay for it. But it was always Brian and I that were like, okay, like, how much money are we missing? Like, you got 100, I got 100, do they got 100? Like, we were trying to put our money together. And that's where that phase of like apathy was it faded out. And it left Brian and I kind of going, should we still do the band? And we wanted to, man. So like I said, we spent a good year and a half, like, just talking about it. Like, we want to do this, So we were on a search for other musicians. We bring in, we actually put up signs everywhere, man. Like, we went to all the music stores, those little, 8x11s or 8x10s where you can rip off the phone number and like call Elan if you're a serious, guitar, and so we auditioned people and it was just left and right that we had great musicians coming through and they would all fucking flake on us. And eventually it kind of formed into us finding Drew. And that was when we actually had a true band, is when we found Drew, like he was serious and he knew how to really play.
Yeah, great.
And he came and he came with another musician. He was already paired up with a guy named Miro. And him and Miro were really amazing at collaborating. And they had every style, I mean, from Pantera to Slayer style and Miro was great at rhythm. So Miro was playing all these cool rhythms, and Drew, we just saw him ripping and shredding solos, and we're like, these are the fucking guys. If they're willing to do it, we're in.
Right.
And so then it was Brian, myself, Drew, and Miro, and we started writing real songs for Apathy at that point. And that was, I want to say, I'm talking 20, like 20 years ago, man. This all happened, in our in our very early 20s, bro. Let's just say that. I'm pretty sure that Drew was just turning 21 or something like that, or he had just turned 21. And so, we had lined up some gigs. I don't know if you remember a place called Cafe Euphrates out here in Denver, but a lot of bands would play this kind of coffee shop, and it was a fucking corner of, a stage. It wasn't even a stage, but it was packed in there. This place was just the place to be if you were starting out. And it was one of our first gigs. We finally wrote enough songs. Like, I had worked on a drum solo, and it was like the crowd just exploded. And we're like, maybe we really have something here, man. It just made me feel like people are really responding to our shit. And I think the energy we put out there, you had Brian bouncing around, man.
Yeah, great.
And I don't think we look like typical metal dudes, bro. I mean, we all had, ball caps or, slicked back hair. And and Brian was dressing nice, had a button down shirt, but we listened to Morbid Angel, Cannibal Corpse, freaking Napalm Death, and all that shit, just like the next guy, man. But it was just paired up with so many different styles stylistically that putting it all together is why, like, I feel like we were ahead of our time, man. You hear some of the style now.
Such a talented vocalist like Brian Ortiz, you go where the talent takes you. Yeah, there's plenty of guys. I mean, there's plenty of different types of music and guys that do death metal and grind and this and that, but most of us couldn't, nobody could sing, and so you're just like, well, he can growl, and then that was your vocalist, but when you got someone with the talent like that, I mean, that definitely opens some doors for some different styles of music for sure. And I don't know, did you guys did you have a genre or style that you guys called yourselves? Because now that I think about it, I don't know what genre I would put you guys in. Metal. I'd call it metal, you know. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think we always knew that we were just a melodic,
Melodic. Yeah.
metal, I definitely don't think we put ourselves in like progressive or obviously, not death or thrash. Did we have parts that were all three of those things? Absolutely, man.
Yeah,
There was times where
absolutely.
we thrashed out. But I would say more, melodic metal, melodic death metal to a degree. Just because
Mhm.
we did have a lot of parts that did have, the guttural type of vocals,
Right, right.
where Brian would growl. But we all just had so many different styles. Between me, Brian, and Tino, the bass player,
Bass
we
player,
were all
yeah.
over the
Shout
place
out.
with our knowledge of music. I mean, dude, I would listen to Mozart, Beethoven, Madonna, and fucking Cannibal Corpse all in the same day, and Brian would be, listening to. I mean, there's so many times where we listened to Elvis for like a good solid hour in our cars while, you know, he was smoking a fat joint or something like that. And Tino, same with him, bro. He was just like I remember him just loving Seal. Like it was just like I love it was just the styles were everywhere. Drew was probably the most, I would say, like consistent and like I'm just a freaking metal dude. Like I like metal. He was Pantera. Everyone thought he was Dimebag Drew. He really encompassed that aura. Whereas us three, I think, were like obviously those are huge influences, but I think we had music all over the map. Like and to this day, if I look through my CD collection, which yes, I still have one, I know that we're all like Bluetooth now, and but I love looking through what I got in there, man, and it's definitely a big plethora of stuff, and so that's where if you really listen to Apathy, man, you'll hear some parts that are like, did that just sound like Typo Negative? And did that just
Right.
sound like Cannibal Corpse? And did he
Yeah.
just, sound like Elvis a little bit there? And I
Yeah.
mean, it's just like, it really is like all over the place, but it's like somehow worked.
Yeah, you guys even had the old acid bath cover, crushed it. Yeah, you guys had all different kind of styles. Is me personally, I like things that move and change, and so I always appreciated your band a lot. I mean, I've already interviewed your vocalist, and now I'm interviewing you, so it's like I guess it's safe to say I liked your band, but at the same time, I mean, you got your fingers in so many different pies or whatnot. That how long did the band run?
At least
Or
10
at least
years.
Apathy. Yeah,
Yeah, at least 10 years. I mean, if not a little bit longer, man. There was a
yeah,
point where, um, you know, I was working for a finance company and I just had a little bit of side time, bro, during this process, and I was doing underwriting for auto loans. Just kind of always had that secondary brain of corporate, and that I could work over here and still, create over here, and so it held my life together. But when I was at work, I was always just sending like I'm like, oh, I found like the email to Promark or Remo or like these different magazines in Europe, and it just got really exciting because it was a time that there was a lot of open doors, and a lot of the time when I would sit with the band, and this is nothing against them, but it was like the business side of it didn't always click with the whole group, and not saying that they didn't understand it, but I was just always like, well, Uncle Nasty interviews people, dude, so let's call him. They're like, we don't know him. I'm like, so what? Let's call him. Because sometimes it's just a phone call. Sometimes it's like, well, if you don't make the damn call, you don't know if it's a yes or no, man. So I
right,
was just always like
right,
emailing away, trying to present ourselves. And this is the time where no one really taught us how to do any of this shit. There wasn't like some
right.
dude who was like, hey, man, do you guys have a bio, or do you have a one page, or do you have a EPK, or are you registered with the Library of Congress or copywritten, or and we're like, no, we're just metal dudes who played Cafe Euphrates. We did a drum solo over here. We did a guitar solo, and everyone liked us. And so they started offering us gigs. It was all very grassroots and organic. And it turned into us realizing we really had to understand the business more in order to like progress.
Right, right.
And I think probably that goes for a lot of dudes who just truly love music. Like, you know, because it was more something that I feel like we fell into, not so much like planned, like jamming to like,
Right.
hey, we can really write music to like, but in that it was hard. It was hard to get started. It's one of the things that I learned a lot from, and what I took with me in, you know, becoming more of a promoter and doing things is because I realized all the steps we missed. And I was like, shit, man, if I would have known this before, then it would have been much easier. Because there was a good period of time that we didn't even know how to get a gig.
Right.
We had no idea how to even get a gig. And there's a lot of people back then that were like, if you ain't 21, bro, you ain't playing. Like, we don't have
Right.
any fucking use for you. But nowadays, you know, you have a lot of all age venues and a lot of bands that are killing it and they're young as shit. But when we were doing it, it felt like that we were only able to play certain places. And so there's a lot of years that we were writing all this great shit, but we weren't able to get it in front of people.
Right.
And I don't think we knew how, man. You know, so it took some growing pains to get there, you know?
Right. You doing all right, Kim? You want to ask a question?
Yeah, I mean, it seems like your band, you know, came up at a time where things were hard. I mean, there's so many resources now with, you know, social media and everything else. And you figured it out. So how many albums did you all record?
Three albums. Yeah, 3. There is a 4th that never was actually released. We kind of re-released a dual album, and we put both on the same one, which was I believe Brian Ortiz and Tino's idea. And Tino is really great at artwork, so he was able to kind of come up with all these like creative art ideas. Everything that we did was all in-house, all of our art, all of our stuff like that. But yeah, about 3 that were actually pushed out there, you know, copywritten, you know, on freaking, you know, distribution, you know, through, I don't know, maybe like a CD Baby type thing back then or something like that, you know?
Yeah.
And, you know, printing you know, there's actually a good moment where we were selling quite a few CDs and like actually running out and then like having to reimburse like locations. And I don't remember, just because it was so long ago, I wish I could be like, oh, like it was here or there. But I remember getting really excited and we started getting kind of a band pool of money that from actually selling records. And, but yeah, about 3, man. It was Hellion Studios was who pretty much who recorded us, Dave Otero, which is still, that dude is still killing it, man.
Otero recorded you, and he was called Hellion. Was that before it was Flatline?
I believe so.
Wow.
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah, that and so did you record with him for all 3 albums?
The 2 for sure we did with him, which were our earlier ones. The one that I was talking about that was like cassette tape of, I believe we called it Of Dreams and Perpetual Misery. Brian just like, you know, he drew the art in like, I don't know if he did it in high school or something, like he was just, you know, learning math or something, but he was a good artist too, actually, by hand, and just sketched out this really cool portrait. You know, this is back in the day, bro, with you know, bands like Dismembered Fetus, where some of that cool hand art was kind of cool for a front cover, man, you know?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I've said that in a prior podcast. Like you know, when we were kids, every band coming up, whoever was good with the pencil, that's who did all the art, like in the band. Like it was like always like there's always one guy that could draw too, and he wound up doing the logo and maybe the whole deal. Or if not, it was like, oh, well, you know, Tino knows that can do some art, or you wind up finding somebody. But it's like, you know, that's why all those, you know, I remember our old band space was just covered in all these old flyers, and and it's so many different bands that came and gone through that room. But it's like, I don't know, somewhere somebody probably collected all them flyers, but I bet there was flyers in that room from like 1985 to probably, you know, 2020. You know, so what was your experience like recording drums? Like, how did you like it when you recorded at Hellion with Dave? Do you remember the process, or was it so long ago?
No, I remember the process. The first time in, I was just like, this dude had a basement. I'm pretty sure his mom answered the door. And, but he just had that word on the street that he can get you a real sound.
Yeah.
I mean, bands were coming out of there and this had never happened before, where I was like, wow, like the drums really sound like solid. And that was a big issue, man, is a lot of these recordings could get good guitar and bass and even vocals, but most of the drum sound was terrible. And
Some
and
Dave
Otero
were terrible.
Yeah, so Dave Otero was like, he knew how to, I don't know what he did, what was different other than having a great ear and obviously good equipment. But it was the same kind of thing that the first time through with him, we just didn't have a lot of money. And so we kind of had to work out a deal with him, do things super quick. I'm pretty sure I recorded all my drums in like 12 hours. And I don't think I even left. If I remember correctly, I feel like I just did everything in one day. And the rest of the guys, I feel like kind of could come back in and pieced it together. It was just getting the drums laid out. We still had our separate rooms, man, and so he was able to accomplish that from what I remember. And then later the stuff, could come back over with bass and guitar and solos and vocals and then harmonies and so forth. And the second time through was a little bit more of a process. Still no click track at all, but definitely more experience at that point. But still, very much a grind metal type of approach. Like, we're going to come here and just rock out. I wish we would have done things a little bit differently. I think in those beginning albums that we were getting a little bit further down the line and really wanting to get a great sound. I wish we would have done a click. It wasn't until we recorded the last one that we didn't get to release with Spiked Audio, Mike from Spiked Audio. And RIP to him. He actually passed away many years ago. And but he was the one that was like, have you guys ever played to a click? And the answer was, no, we haven't. Well, he was
How'd you
really,
like that?
And that was a whole nother process to learn. That was not something that I was used to at all. And so that was a little bit challenging for me to have the headphones on. He programmed everything real time to the click. We had never heard a click to our shit before, which I feel like if anyone probably has the most difficulty learning to a click, it's going to be the drummer. Because
absolutely,
you got the pop of the snare, you got the kick drum. You can kind of get away with some cymbal work that can be a little bit scattered, but if your shit's not on, there's a lot of, we got to move it back over to where it can line up. And so we had tried several different methods with Mike. Came in with the acoustic drum. He was having a difficult time lining stuff up. I think flat out we didn't have enough practice going into the studio and like learning kind of a whole new way. And we should have probably practiced more to a click. We didn't at all. So with that being said, we did pretty damn good. But then he goes, I think I could get really great sound if we tried part electric drum set, part, and then attach real cymbals. And so we tried that, and that was super strange, and that didn't really work. And then we went back to an acoustic drum. So we literally set up and broke down like 3 different processes with the drums. And it was just like this recording nightmare, man. And with that being said, he was just kind of like, let me work on it. All the parts were laid down, man. The shit sounded fucking great, but it definitely had a lot of work that needed.
You guys are a great band, super talented band, super tight. I've seen you guys a bunch. I think towards the end of your band, I even tried out with you guys for a while, but it was the same for me. My early bands and stuff, we never played with the click. That was weird. It was like it was going to take away all the feeling, but you're talking early mid 90s. and then it's the same thing. And now if I got a band in here and we're going to a click, but if they've never, okay, look, man, let's build some tempo maps, and you guys need to practice to it. You need to practice to a click, because it'll start to make you feel like you're tripping. It moves forward, it's moving backwards, you're sliding around, and so you start working against it. But obviously, I'm sure, as you found out, like once you get in the pocket with the click, then it becomes really easy, and it's really easy to edit, and things can get really tight, especially with the drum editing and all that. But
yes,
that's another thing too, where it just depends on the drummer. If you're used to your acoustic, because you could do your acoustic kit and then trigger the kit, but maybe he was dealing with bleed and the cymbals, and he was trying to edit, and he probably had some cymbals in there, and he was moving drums around. So it's like, but ultimately my favorite way to do drums is on the electric kit with real cymbals. I was trying to re-record one of our old projects back in the day, and I wound up losing a hard drive, but I personally, I love it. I'm like, this is great because I don't get any bleed. But nowadays I'm learning though too, is like, that full kit and the cymbal wash, when we're standing there and you're rocking out on your drums, we're hearing plenty of cymbals. But I'd say for like the first 10 years in the studio, of starting my little project studio, I hated the hi-hat. I hate it. It's like, I got to turn that hi-hat down because it's just counting away, and I can't stand listening to someone count on the hi-hat, and everybody like, dude, where's my hat, and it's like, oh, okay, it's like, let me give you some more hat. And now that I'm just like, here's the whole kit. I actually start with overheads, let's hear the whole kit, and then bring everything up in there. But yeah, that would definitely be challenging. You walk in the studio and it's like, all right, let's go to the click now.
We hadn't done it before.
We hadn't done it before.
Yeah, I will say I'm very, very thankful for that experience. It
Absolutely.
taught me a lot. And I think what it really taught me about our band was that we were speeding up and slowing down together. We were so in sync that we had such an internal connection with our music that, you watch these old live videos of Apathy, and we're like, why were we playing 4 times as fast as we needed to play? Just the excitement and adrenaline. But we were playing on time. And then, get back home, set up our shit. We're practicing for a show. We're all just, jamming it, slowing way down. And there's parts where, if Drew was flying, I would, naturally compensate and catch up. If I was flying, Drew would do the same thing. And we didn't realize that until we applied the click. And that became a bigger challenge than I think any of us probably could have expected. But I think it was an eye-opening one and a good one. I think we were very tight, but I think we just need a little bit more time on the click to really make that studio time, be more efficient. But since then, I took a huge break, man, of jamming it all. Once Apathy was done, we had a final show that none of us even knew was the final show. Tino actually had announced he was leaving the band. This was after many, many gigs, man. Headlining, touring, here and there, right? We weren't a major touring band all over the world, but we were doing some touring, some Weekend Warrior stuff. But we were able to play anywhere we wanted, man. Headline any Gothic gig we wanted. Playing Ogden, playing the Bluebird, AEG Live, NIPP, whatever, and that's, one of the ways that I had, got so many connections was because, we were a sought after band that people did love and enjoy to watch. And so
absolutely.
it kind of got to the point where we had just done everything, man. And we were still just kind of Apathy. Right. We weren't there's a point where we're Apathy, and it was just big and it was in your face, and we hit a peak. And I think, I could walk into many, many venues and have, people come up and be like, let me get you a drink. Let me talk about music. And we saw our stickers all over all over Denver, all over Colorado. It was just fun, bro. It felt like we really just had this chance. And with Crash Music offering us, a deal, a label deal, we were we kind of hit hey, we actually got a record label offer, the same record label as Flotsam and Jetsam, and that's a whole nother story. We can definitely talk about that if you want, but we can, that's
Did
another
you take it?
We did, but we were dumb and wanted to negotiate it. And we ended up getting a music attorney, and it scared them off. They're like, y'all pretty much need to just say yes. But we didn't want to get fucked, right, bro? We didn't want to be like, Kitty, who's like going broke but still getting played on KBPI every day, And so I think we were smart in knowing what's out there, but I think that we let our worries and anxiety about not getting screwed. I don't think that we were so much egotistical, like, oh, we're better. It wasn't that. I think that we were genuinely trying to make a good business decision, and I think it scared off the label, and the label ended up just saying, you know what, we're in the process of signing bands like Flotsam and Jetsam, and if I remember correctly, he just sent us an email back saying, hey, like, we're not interested anymore, like, we're going to retract our offer. We had a full-on, I want to say a good 10-page, 12-page contract. And, but, those deals weren't great, man. I mean, we're talking, the royalties were absolutely garbage, bro. I mean, I don't know that it would have progressed us anymore other than us having the clout. It would have helped, but I don't know that it would have took an Apathy to another level or not.
Yeah,
I think that it still would have been us,
deals, Some of those indie deals are killers, dude.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So,
do you have a show or two and that standout moments from live shows or tours
with Apathy?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say that you want the good, bad, and ugly, or just the good,
Yeah, give me what, the short version.
I would say, we've had some really like, okay, the band probably got way too freaking wasted and thought they were Motley Crue nights. And we've had some really amazing nights. And I think I'm more in tune with wanting to describe, the Colorado Music Hall in Colorado Springs, man. We played with Dirt Nap and Aggressive Persuasion, and surprised I even remember that's who we played with just now, but that was a long ass time ago. And why that was such a standout moment, man? Well, again, we just kind of had this, we were riding this train, bro. It was going good, man. It was going great. We had talked to Peter Orr, who's still doing it, man. Peter Orr is, I should probably start like a East Coast, West Coast, freaking fight right now with Peter Orr, because he's one of the promoters that has really been a competitor. But I've always respected him, man, because he's good, dude. He's good at what he does, and he's stayed relevant for all this time. So, I won't throw any gang signs on camera to Peter Orr, man, because I respect that dude. But he gave Apathy. What's so funny? This is why it's ironic is he gave us a lot of those chances, and Colorado Music Hall was one of them, and it was freaking amazing place, bro. A true music hall, seats going up, man. It's like an auditorium, big ass, one of the biggest stages. I mean, I want to say that stage was bigger than the Ogden, bro. Like, it was huge, and place. We're thinking we're going to go out to the Springs, man. Like, this is going to be like, we're not that big out there, and only an hour and 15 minutes away, but we promoted the ever living shit out of it. Those guys were out there killing it, man. And we ended up bringing like 1,000 people to that room. And I mean, it was like a line around the building. And we were like, this is what it's all about. And so killed it that night, bro. Played an amazing set. Freaking crowd was just like, I mean, you would have thought they knew all of our fucking songs. And it was just one of those moments, bro, that we're like, wow, this can really, like, this, again, you have those ups and downs. This as well, Jason, from being in a band, that you have these ups and downs. You have where you play, you thought was your best set, and 3 people clap, and you're like, dude, I thought we played good. And then you have other times you're like, people just are rocking and they're buying all your merch. This was one of those nights. And I think what was super cool to us, it was just having that taste, man. There was a line from the dressing room all the way across the auditorium to get our autographs, because we put on that kind of energetic show where we were just like, these people don't even know us, but we're just gonna, they're buying our shirts, they're buying our albums, we're signing everything. And it just felt good, man. It felt good to be that independent, promoter of your own music and organic writing. And we're just 4 dudes in a basement rehearsing some metal songs to play like a place as amazing as the Colorado Music Hall with some of the highest up, promoters in town, and just have that really go well. But the hardest part about that, man, is you hit those highs, and just as quick as the highs comes the lows, bro. You just don't stay on those highs. And that's the thing you have to accept in the music world, man, is with the highs are going to come the lows. And if you're willing to take the lows, and just like anything, just like the stock market, man, sometimes you have new highs, sometimes you have new lows, and you have to roll with those punches, man. I think that we got to a point where we just didn't know where else to go. And we had a lot of, things happening in our personal lives, and and the Toad Tavern was our last show. It was supposed to be Tino's last show. Ended up actually officially being my last show as well. So,
wow.
Yeah. So unfortunately, I wanted to throw this big last show and go out with a bang. And we ended up, tapping out at 150 cap Toad Tavern, So.
Oh yeah, that's wild, man. I appreciate you sharing. And you're right. And I think that's, to the, for everybody, it's like, you could, and thing is you never know. One night is this, one night is that. And it's like, oh, we're rolling, you getting these big shows. And then, there's always going to be some duds, that come in there. What wound up pushing you to start booking shows? I have a guess.
So it was that facade of developing relationship with, the managers and directors at these big venues like the Gothic Theater. It was really easy for me just to go back there and be like, hey, like, what's up? I was always the one already handling the business, of Apathy when it came to the major business side of it. Booking, managing the band was more of my forte. I'm not saying the other guys didn't do stuff, because they very much did. And it took all of us, as a team to be able to like really do Apathy. But, ultimately I was the one who was reaching out, wasn't afraid to call Greg, Stone, get our interviews for local band hangout day or Denver band hangout day, to get on the, KVPI like 106.7 Battle of the Bands, to get in the Gothic and all that. So these relationships were just being formed naturally. And it was more of a situation where the venues were just like, just book it, man. Just you guys invite the bands, put it together a show. Now, do I feel like there's a little bit of laziness there? Because even I, as a promoter, have been, I've had situations where I've worked at some small venues as a management or something like that. I'm like, I'm just going to tell this one fucking band to go ahead and bring your other 4 buddies, 4 buddy bands, because you probably know what their draw is. They might all bring 20 or 30 people. So the venues were just kind of like, relying on us to headline, to have the bands underneath us, and they could draw. And so that turned into kind of just booking our own shows and building them organically. And then my name just kind of started getting tossed around to venues. And they're like, hey, man, can you like book us a show? And one of the places that really started catching on to that was Club Inferno. And I believe the Tone Lab had an anniversary party there or something, right?
Yeah.
And that, and I started going, people are calling me to book their shows, and I don't know what to do with all of that. I wasn't trying to be a promoter at all. In fact, it was the fucking last thing I wanted to do, man. I used to honestly get pissed at promoters because I knew I could do all this shit by myself, which is why I started forming the company, because I was getting hit up by 5 to 7 promoters, sometimes in a day, no shit, to play shows. And I'm like, dude, I already know the manager there. I already know the owner there. I already know how to book my own shows there. Like, what can you do? So the only time I even worked with a promoter is just if they're like my friend. I was like, I'll work with this dude because he's cool and it's less work for us. And we're just going to let him do all this shit. And of course, we're still going to promote and things like that. But I got to the point where I'm like, it's so funny. This is the irony, is I was like, why would a band need a promoter? I can do this by myself. But Apathy was a different cup of tea, I feel like. But, and so with that and being hit up all the freaking time, I was like, well, how do I make money doing this? Because I'm doing it for free at this point. I was doing it for my band. All the money was going on the band fund. Never saw a penny of the band money. I was doing it for other bands, never saw a penny of any of their freaking money. I was doing it for the freaking venues, never saw any of their money, but though I kept on doing it. I'm like, well, I should have fucking working a lot for not getting paid anything, you know?
Right.
And so I started like, I'm like, I need a laptop. I need a freaking Wi-Fi. I started carrying around like, you know, notebook and, you know, paper. And I'm like, this is a business. I don't know how it is one, but I think it is one. And so that's why I decided to call it Bands for Bands. My original idea was bands can promote bands by themselves, and I'm going to recruit other band members who are like minds, and we're going to be bands for bands. So we're going to be bands promoting and working with other bands. And so I share that idea with like 4 other musicians. They're like, oh my God, that's brilliant. And it's kind of funny because the first conversation I had about that was actually with my mom. We were eating like sushi in Denver. And I was like, Mom, like, I think I have a cool idea. And, you know, my mom's going to tell me that, you know, if I shit a certain way, it's a great idea. You know what I mean? She's like my mom. Like, Mom's going to be like, yeah, you're. And she was like, actually, this is cool. And I was like, I don't know. I'm like, can I do it? And in my mind, I was like, if I could just earn a few extra bucks on the side, this would be great, man. Like, you know, I don't care. I mean, give me some Taco Bell, maybe some, you know, some extra fun time, maybe a vacation. Like, I didn't think of it at all, ever. It would ever turn into a business. I only thought of it as some extra cash on the side. It actually allowed me to save up for like, I just had turned in a lease vehicle and I needed a car. And I saved up exactly $3,600 for my Bands for Bands money after like a course of quite a bit of time to like buy a car outright. And that was my first taste of going like, I can actually make money, like real money doing this.
Right.
And then it just kind of spun out from there. So it was never intended. I mean, I never actually wanted to be a promoter at all. And the minute I became a promoter, my whole like transition of like being just a cool drummer to being a promoter, everyone treated me way freaking different. Either they really liked me a lot or they fucking didn't like me at all. Like when you wear the business hat, it changes people's perspective very quickly. And it was crazy to see that as a, you know, what I feel was a drummer that was very liked in a band that was very liked. But when you're handing people paychecks, bro, you know, it's different, man. You have to really put on a different kind of hat. So the business side awoke me very quickly and kind of how I had to manage that, you know?
Yeah. And I remember, you did help us. You helped us with our Tone Lab anniversary show. And that was at Club Inferno. I was just telling Kim earlier, I was like, oh man, I don't know why there wasn't more shows at that place. It had like a cool stage. It had a green room. It had like the cages hanging, and it, you know, it was just a nice wide open space. And we had a great time. We really appreciate you helping us with that. Like, I'll let Kim jump in here a little bit if you'd like, because it's too bad it was on. There was a blizzard on the night, and but for anybody that showed up, like we had Drum City Guitar Land promoted it. We had ads on the radio. We were giving away items. We gave away studio time, a guitar, all kinds of stuff. And it was really fun. And like, that was we always look back on that, huh, Kim? Like, man, it's really kind of fun.
I thought it was really fun. I had such a good time coming up with the ideas for it and planning it. It was really sad that there was a blizzard that night, but it still turned out, I thought, pretty good considering. And I just remember, like, you did the radio. You helped us, like, get the radio ads, which I thought helped a lot. And I don't know, like, it was so much fun. I was like, gosh, I really could do this all the time. But the problem with that is that we definitely spent way more than we made. And then that's where I wonder how that balance comes in. Like, you had to figure that balance out, and I bet that was hard.
Yes, it was hard. That was a really fun show. I enjoyed that as well. I mean, one of the things I truly did enjoy was like doing those type of events, because it was just having fun with a bunch of friends. You know, it was a little bit less like work and more like, you know, this is helping out people that I know and hanging out with friends. And I mean, you can't imagine how many times I've walked into environments by myself and I didn't know anybody. And, you know, the music industry is pretty freaking gangster, man. I'm just going to tell you that. And when you walk into places that you don't know anybody and you're walking out with money, you're trying to pay bands who are touring want cash. I mean, there's times where you might have to roll in with 10 freaking grand because Puddle of Mud wants 10 grand, right? Like,
yeah.
And so, you know, it was always very like calming to me to be able to like work with friends, because I'm like, oh, like, I get to have fun tonight, and a lot of shows aren't fun. Like they're not, it's work. It's a lot of work, man. Trust me. And people are always like, how do you do this 4 or 6, 8 times a month? And it's just, you just come up with a system, and it's like anything. And you're booking over here. That's all booked. You're signing over here. Now you sign 5 contracts. Now you're 2 hours of your day you're promoting. And then, the weekends you're rushing off to a show with a file folder that has all your information in it. And then throughout the week, you're meeting bands, giving them tickets, flyers, posters, whatever you can do. So it's just dividing up your time, just like any job, man. Once you have a system, you can do all that shit in 6 to 8 hours in a day too. Although I was working, there was a few times I worked 14 to 16-hour days, because I was like taking phone calls that, I'm sure you probably relate to this even with the Tone Lab, bro. Like when you start getting a lot of business, you find yourself like editing until 3 a.m. I was definitely booking until 3 a.m. And a lot of the time, because I had to subscribe to my own videos, my own editing software, because as much as I could do by myself to save money. So I found myself making my own videos and making my own flyers. And there got to be a point where I was so busy that I just couldn't do it all by myself anymore. So I was always hiring kind of people as needed, just to kind of keep the business afloat, man. But it was very challenging. But your show was particularly fun. And I very much remember like giving away the guitar and I don't know, just like cracking jokes up there, and everyone was like laughing, having fun. And
we had a juggler. We had a juggler at a metal show.
Yeah. But I was, maybe happy that you guys were happy, because I knew that it meant a lot to you, man, both you and Kim, and so that was important to me, that mainly that you guys were taken care of in that moment,
Yeah. Did you have some questions here, Kim, you'd like to ask?
I guess just how did you figure out, like when you decided to, or you didn't decide to be a promoter, but when you kind of fell into that, how did you find the balance between, making all the bands that you work with happy and making money? Because I feel like, just like any job, nobody understands how much work it is if they haven't done it. Just like, recording or any other job. Like it just seems like that would be one of those things where they think it's easy and that you're just taking money off the top, and that they don't even understand everything that you're doing to earn it.
Yeah. There's always a tug of war out there. There's no way to vastly explain that to anybody who doesn't understand the model, especially the people that already go into it jaded. So if you have your band that's been working for 10 years and, they don't understand why they only got $5 a ticket, it's going to be really hard to explain it to someone with that mindset. Who's going to really understand it is going to be someone who's just grateful to have the gig. They're like, they kind of get what business is. So you're always going to have kind of your yin and yang with that. But I guess, my whole mindset was always like, you got to make a business to where they don't want you, but they need you. Because if they need you, then you can kind of be like, hey, bro, like I'm laying out this platform for you and this is what it is. And you can accept or reject the offer. Don't accept an offer that you're going to get pissed about later on. Here's the offer. It's in black and white. If you want to negotiate it, then put on your business hat and negotiate it.
Right.
And so everything's always up for negotiation. Everything's laid up front. And it has to be a model that you make money in, man. So if that means that not everyone's going to get paid a lot of money, including myself, and that's just how it is, like, and if a band's like, well, I'm used to getting this guarantee, that guarantee, then it's like, well, maybe that doesn't fit into the model, and so you have to make those decisions. You have to figure out ways to trade. Maybe it's a great band who deserves $2,000 a night, but there's just no way you could put them on, Buck Cherry, Puddle of Mud, and POD, because that show cost you $20,000. To add more money to the deficit is going to be counterintuitive. So you have to just, the relationships, it's everything, man. And I think you just have to have that confidence in that this is a show that is worthwhile, that people are going to buy these tickets. And so when you're putting those events, I put one of the craziest shows I invested in was over $30,000 with 3 weeks to promote it. And it was because the tour needed one more stop. And it was like a bunch of freaking bands, man. It was like 7, multi-platinum bands, which isn't bad for 30 freaking grand. And everyone's like, don't do it. And we ended up, crushing it, man. So, and those, it's just taking risks, taking gambles. But I think finding the balance has always been hard. It's always been hard.
Yeah. And so that's a good segue to the next one. And so, 30 grand. So how, we don't have to get too deep into money and whatnot, but, obviously you're getting the capital from somewhere to invest in that show. And then there's a huge liability. It could definitely flop. And, yeah. And so
it
usually
has flopped before many times.
So did you have to invest a lot of your own money to start at the beginning?
I went flat broke on I booked Jack Russell's Great White, and I won't tell you the dollar amount because in my contracts I'm not allowed to actually say.
Sure, yeah. Absolutely.
And Jack Russell, is no longer with us either, man. He's, he passed away, and that's, RIP. He was actually a great dude, but he was actually one of my very first nationals. And I was like, Great White, like that's a good show, and this was kind of before he got a little watered down, like everyone started booking him. But when I booked him, it was at a great club called Castleman's down in Noto. And I had saved up some money from all my little gigs and a little bit of my own money because I still worked a regular job. I was kind of fading out my regular job. I put every penny into this one show. Like I remember having like $300 left in my bank account. So we're talking thousands of dollars without throwing out the dollar amount in this one show. And the show sold out, bro. It's just one of those situations that just went well. And I put it all out there. I put my balls out there. You got to put your balls out there, man. And I did. And my money doubled. So then I had from there, I had, money to invest. And then I really started looking for sponsors. And between that and looking for major sponsors was really what gave me capital. Those were the two items. But if it wasn't for that one show doing well, I don't think I'd be here today or being able to keep going. Wow. It was the one show that did well. And then I had another show do the exact same thing. I took that money and I put all of my money into another big show the exact same way. And that show also sold out as well. And I doubled my money there.
Awesome.
So I made a few really good decisions, and it was completely fucking risky and stupid all at the same time. But that's what happened, brother. And then the sponsors started coming in, and they were dropping serious money, and they were willing to pay for entire shows. And so now you had capital that other, that sponsors were willing to do. They wanted their name. I started just realizing taking my name off and putting their name on was like sponsors were like all over that. And so I was okay with taking the back seat many of times to say music around or freaking, strain wise, or Go Fast energy drink or whatever. If you guys want your names on here, the glitz and glam, like I'll gladly remove it. If you guys want to sponsor and help bring some great acts to Denver, Colorado and give these local bands a platform to play. So it was just a combination, man, but it was definitely putting my balls out there and taking major risk of my own money. That if I was to fail in those moments, I don't believe I would have been able to promote a single day after that.
Right. Yeah, because the cliche is kind of like promoters always lose money. They always lose money. So is that true or overblown?
I would say that the promoter that doesn't have business sense probably loses every single day. But if you have good business sense and you know how to calculate and you know how to underwrite and go like, okay, like this is how many tickets I need, like actually plug in your numbers to a spreadsheet or something. You have some way to calculate like risk management, then those people don't lose. Those people break even more. And then the more you're breaking even, the more you start kind of get that slight edge of getting above break even and then more and more and more. I mean, break even could be considered a loss in some people's world. If you have too many break evens, then you're not making any damn money. So that can be really hard as well. But a lot of promoters, what they do, they get really excited because, Saliva had one song, 35 years ago, click, click, boom. And they think, oh, this band's worth all this money. They spend all this money because they want the clout. And they realize that maybe only 350 people are coming, you know, because yeah, I mean, 20 years ago, Click Click Boom would have brought 3,000 plus people. But so people don't, you know, part of underwriting is looking at the time of where you're in and the current status of the music industry and what's relevant. And if you don't know that, if you don't have, because it's changing every freaking month, every 6 months, then you're going to lose. So the promoter who's not doing that is losing every single day. The promoter that has his ear to the ground and goes, shit, like Subtronics is pretty popular right now. Bass Nectar, EDM, all this shit, you know, is it worth it to put, you know, 25 grand into, you know, a band that had a hit, you know, 30 years ago? I mean, maybe on a festival, but maybe not. So I think a lot of promoters, why they lose a lot is because they are not underwriting. They're not really plugging in their numbers and going like, okay, that doesn't sound so bad. But if you have to sell out a show to win, then you're not in a good space, man. You should only have to get to like half capacity. So a lot of promoters, they're just overshooting. They want the name recognition. They want to take they want to take the picture. They want to look cool. You know, I stopped taking pictures with bands like 10 years ago. I forgot that I even had to take a picture. You know, people were like, why aren't you promoting yourself? I'm like, I forgot that I even needed to do that. Like because I was doing it to win, bro. When you're trying to win, you know, my grandpa said to me a long time ago, man, do you want to be freaking famous or do you want to be rich? You know, and people who are thinking about making it and trying to be famous first are probably not going to be famous first, right? Like it's pretty rare that someone just rolls out of bed in their freaking underwear and they just, you know, they play a song and all of a sudden they're famous. Normally you have to work for it to get to it, man.
Right.
And so when you put in the work and you're able to have that foundation is really where the success came in for me. Because then I'm getting calls from promoters all over the United States asking me how do they break into Denver.
Right.
So now it's like, you know, I'm allowing other promoters and other people to piggyback on kind of my recognition and, you know, and just like in any business, man, like if you're a businessman, if you're Elon Musk, his hands in everything, bro. He's like, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. I'm going to, you know, that's really the best way. So how to not lose, man, is have your hands in as much shit as you possibly can, bro. You know, that's what you do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good answer. Yeah. Well, any shows that shocked you or surprise hits or complete bombs? Or maybe you don't want to name names, you want to keep it vague. But like there's had to been some where you're like, oh, this has got a crush and it just tanked. Or vice versa. Sure. Yeah.
No, for sure.
And
I was really good at
it.
Yeah, it does hurt, man. I mean, if you have not been to the ATM during a show, then you're not a real promoter. Because every promoter has had to go to the ATM. And but it was a reggae show that completely tanked. It was super famous dudes, this rhythm section from Jamaica that played with some of the biggest names in the freaking world of reggae. The problem is that did not translate to America, and I thought it would. And I paid them good money, and like 75 people showed up, and I paid them really good money. So,
oh man,
I probably made 15% of my money back on that show, to give you an idea.
Yeah.
And so I went to the ATM and cried and drank a couple, you know, took a couple shots. That was a tough one. And there's a few of those, man. There's a few that, you know, just didn't make any sense, man. And then there's the ones that I like some of these like underground bands that like Texas Hippie Coalition.
Yeah.
I mean, when you know, those guys, I was like, I had this idea of like, I got to do all these things. I got to put radio, this and that. And it always helped. But those dudes, you know, I didn't even start doing anything. And they just like announced it and like, you know, 350 tickets sold. And I'm like, because they just had a cult following. So I started realizing like these cult followings could be really valuable. So to give you the last part of that answer, I booked a Christian singer, and I'm trying to remember the name. And, you know, I didn't really know a lot about him. And his agent, he's like, just trust me, man. He's like, I'm like, every fucking agent tells me just trust him. Like, and then when I dish out, you know, a bunch of money, I'll just gladly take my money. There's not a refund if you're losing. They're just like, oh, well, that's what my band needs. You know, there's 14 dudes touring. This particular guy had a cult following in the Christian community that I had never seen anything like it before, man. Well, it turns out that they would just go to churches and just be like, you know, they would just email the, you know, whoever was the main person at these churches, and they would send them off because, you know, it was considered religious music. So it was something they wanted their churchgoers to go to. Well, that show sold out in like 3 days, dude. I put $0 into the promotion, zero, because it was just cold. And so it was so many people there that these, like, there was one of the most packed shows I've ever booked. This was actually at Kaufman. We oversold that place. It was insane, to the point where, like, it was so hot in there that, like, one dude, like, passed out and had a seizure. Like, it was, like, unhealthy. I don't know how Castleman's let that many people in, but there was one of those, like, wow.
That's a big place too.
Yeah, it was a big, yeah, it was insanely freaking packed, man. But this dude was just, he was really good, bro. I have to say, like, I'm not into Christian, like, that's not my style. I respect all music, obviously, but, like, he genuinely had good songs, had a good voice, you know? And I was like, I see why people like him. He's, you know, he was just one of those guys, you know, like Counting Crows, like how those kind of bands, like, really speak to the audience. And that's how he was, man. So he just got people to just, like, really vibe with him. And so wherever he went, man, they just, and I wished I would have done a guarantee, because I did a door deal, and I can't believe they even took the door deal. And I would have made so much more money, but because I didn't want to take the risk, you know, they got like 80% of the door. These guys walked out with, I mean, pockets full of money, bro. It was madness. So those were one of those crazy moments. So yeah, I had a shit the bed moment with reggae, and you know, wow moment with Christian music, I guess.
Awesome. So you know, I've got a lot of questions here, and I don't think I'm going to be able to get to all of them, because the promoting side of it is so interesting to me, just because of our one little stuck our toes in the water and like, ooh, that's cold. You know, it was like, you know, we've always kind of, now we live out here in Idaho, and I'm sure there's some promoters out here in Eastern Idaho. I just haven't met them yet. But I'm always like, man, this place needs some music to come through, you know? So when you're dealing, because obviously there's a big difference between dealing with, you know, the professional touring bands, and then, you know, you're dealing with the local bands. And, you know, local bands, it's usually some guy in the band. The touring band, it's usually, you know, like the tour manager or just their manager in general, or a booking agent. What do you really prefer, honestly? Who's easier? Like, you just prefer to deal with like a manager? It's like a tour manager.
The professional touring band is easier to deal with.
Yeah.
Because they're professional. They have contracts. They like know exactly what they need, what they want. As long as you just get their needs and negotiate all the stuff up front, they're going to show up, they're going to do their job, and they're going to get the hell out. And it's easier to promote because they have a name. So you have a name. So there's less marketing that you really have to do. It's actually harder to market local music. No one, you know, if you don't know the name, right? So they're just bringing their friends, you know, and so. And not only that, but I think because of the immaturity in a lot of local bands, and I'm sorry to say this, and this is going to air and piss off a lot of people, because of this mindset that I'm really good. Well, I understand that, man, because, you know, I think I'm pretty damn good too. But you know what? No one's heard half the shit that I wrote either. And so you have to equate the business side with the musicianship. There has to be musicianship, workmanship, and showmanship.
Just get a manager.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Those three things: workmanship, showmanship, and what did I say? Workmanship, showmanship, and musicianship.
Yeah.
Those are the things that are together, man. And if you don't have all three, you're gonna have a tough ride. And yeah, you need a manager, because there's always, you know, and you've been with a lot of band dudes too. You've probably know that there's at least one guy in the band that's just a little bit emotional, and he probably shouldn't be talking to people. And for some strange reason, that dude's out there talking to people. He should talk to his fans, but not the business side. And so a lot of the time, these guys who are emotional, and rightfully so, man, they love their music, they're passionate. I get it, man. Like, I get it, and I feel that. Like, I want to talk to that guy all day long over a beer and talk about all the stuff that we know about music. But I don't want to talk to you if you're going to freaking cry that you deserve the world in some, when you just haven't earned it yet, man. That's a different side that you haven't earned yet. And you have to earn it, man, you know, just like in any business. So managers all day long, bro, for sure.
So with that being said, that brings us to, how do you think the live scene, how do you think the scene has changed since you've started doing this, promoting with streaming, social media, etc.? Like, it seems like it's getting way easier. It's way easier to get gigs. It's way easier to promote gigs. I mean, does anybody even do flyers anymore? Probably not. I mean, there's, it doesn't really, you have, remember back in the day, it was like mailing lists and all this stuff. And now it's just, hit up all your people on social media in every town you go into. And as far as for you as well, it's like, you probably got like your few promoters, or what's the word I'm looking for? I'm drawing a blank. Your advertisers and whatnot. You probably have your go-to people, and that's it.
For sure. Yeah, I definitely think it's much easier. But I think with that comes that it's easy for everybody, right? So now you have, what used to be something special. If you were a dude back in the day in a band, you might have been one of the only guys standing outside the Gothic Theater with a little bag full of flyers. And people were like, whoa, you're in a band? And you're like, yeah, dude, I'm in a band. And so now you were unique and special. And because there's so many, it's less unique, right? So now you just have all these people who are able to press a button, who are really good on social media, and it oversaturates the environment too. So now getting 150,000 hits used to mean something. Now it doesn't mean as much. Now you need a few million hits, right? Like, so to go viral, it's not 100,000 anymore. It's officially over 1 million, right? Which is a hard number to get. So it's easier, yes, but it's more competitive as well because of the access, which I think makes it harder on the other side.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's interesting. What do you think makes a band easy to work with?
Workmanship, showmanship, and musicianship.
Yeah,
all those three things,
and
man.
Some sort of a professional representation, or
and some sort of professional representation. That's right. Understanding of, like, I wish there was like a class on the music business side of things. I actually have thought about making one, to be honest. In these, if you actually look at the culture, this kind of pop culture of musicians that are coming out, a lot of these kids are going to school, man. There's the School of Rock. I mean, you could be a 3-year-old and start, go to the School of Rock, and they'll teach you how to sing. And they don't have a music business class, man. These guys are, I hate to say it, but all their mommy and daddies are sitting around and tell them how great they are. And they forgot that there's a business side. So they get shell shocked when they call up a place like Herman Tidaway, and the owner is like, I don't fucking care. Like, I don't even know. And they're like, what? Have you seen Tommy play the guitar? Bro, so the problem is I think, because I've actually managed, I've managed a young band before, and it's extremely difficult because there's a lot of moms and dads, and they love their kids, and I don't blame them, because I love my child. Like, there's nothing that could make me love anything more than my daughter. And if she was a musician, I'd be over there wanting to beat heads in too if someone looked at her the wrong way and said you couldn't play my venue. But then you got a guy like me who's like, well, what are your credentials? How long have you been around? What's your draw? Who do you know? Like, I'm going to ask you 7 questions, and if you can't answer them all in the way that, honestly, that I need you to, then it's not that I don't think that you can. I just don't have time. So a lot of those emails just get put on the back burner, and so we're just lacking a business approach and then you got these guys, and they're just jaded, man. Like, a lot. If you go online right now, brother, if you just type in like people who are pissed off at the music business, you will find hundreds of thousands. And it's like, and people call me all the time and go, man, like, that guy promised me that gig. And these are friends of mine too. And I'm like, damn, that sucks. But I'm like, but what, you can't do nothing about it, brother. Like, you can't change other people. You can only change yourself and how you go about that. And until you have a hit freaking song, then in all reality, no one really does give a shit. And it's a sad environment, bro. The music business will break your heart every single day. Because you know what? There's some great songs out there that probably nobody even knows about. And I mean, I've heard some songs that are freaking hits. I'm like, damn, that could really and it's like they don't have the right manager, they don't have the right PR, and I'm like, oh, like it breaks my heart too, man.
One
I
thing,
want to see these dudes make it big too, you know, that
one
deserve it.
thing that I think him and I are trying to do on the podcast here is, because ultimately, you know, we have our own band, our musical project, and then I'm doing the studio stuff, and then we make videos, and now we're doing this podcast, and I'm enjoying the podcast because I get to talk to all kinds of different interesting people, but I'm starting to fall into a pattern where I like, you know, talking to, like, you know, the professional working musicians, the I don't even know, you know, the heavy hitter, just pros, and then also like the local legends, and not just local to Colorado, you know, local to every city and every state and every country for that matter. I've got a guy coming up, you know, it's from Brazil that I'm looking forward to talking to. But and so I like just kind of mixing them up. And as I'm starting to kind of fall into this pattern, you start to see the working pros and this super talented, you know, rock stars that just never quite made it. It's like they're the same person, and sometimes it's just luck and who you know, but there's something about, once you've got some money behind you, you've got representation, you've got management, and you're just, you know, like I used Cephalic Carnage as a good example, because they're an awesome band, but once they went on the road and then came back, it was like a whole nother level, and it was just obvious. It was
I
like,
agree.
oh yeah, they came back. I don't remember. They could, you know, tell better. I think it might have been the Ogden or something, and just destroyed. And it was like, oh yeah, that's what that looks like, you know.
I agree. No, I agree.
And so a lot of these young guys,
I probably was at that gig.
yeah,
I agree, man.
A lot of these guys are super talented guitarists. So the kids I get in the studio, they play guitar like it's a video game. You know, it's just, and they're fantastic, but they don't understand that you got to earn it. You got to go out there and work. And part of this conversation, I think, is really why I really wanted to talk to you, because things have changed a lot over the years, especially since like we started to now. Like, you know, if I knew what I knew now, you know, when I was 20, you know, it would things would maybe, they would have been the same, but you know, but so, you know, let's switch gears here. This one's going a little bit long, but I appreciate the conversation. But you know, I've always been curious about venues. You know, I got this segment, venues, the good, the bad, and the sketchy, because obviously, like, how long did it take you to identify venues which were professional and fair, and how many of the duds
They're not so fair.
And then not so fair.
You know, this is one of those things that it was like, how accessible are the people running the venue? You know, like, you know, I mean, I got to a point in all reality that, like, when Castleman's was closing the doors, I mean, it was like everyone was knocking down my doors. They'd be like, I want to book Drowning Pool. I want to book some of these bands, and some of these bands that I was booking 7, 8, 9 years ago aren't really, like, their clout has kind of gone down a little bit too, because of the social media and these other things, because everyone has access. So it's like,
styles change too, you know, some bands just ain't that popular anymore.
And that's just it too. But, you know, so for me, it was really easy to, like, just kind of get a lot of these venues to kind of, you know, work with me in the way that I need them to, the capacity that I needed to, you know, to win on. And so, but as far as gauging that, I mean, dude, I literally had a venue in the spring, so I won't mention the name, but it was like so freaking sketchy, man. And I didn't even know it. It was to the point where I almost, like, had to, like, fight the owner, like, to, like, pay me, you know, like, it was like that kind of sketch. And it was like that. I'm like, damn, like, we agreed to all these things, and he tried to back out of it. I've had actually recent situations like that happen, like maybe about a year ago, where there's a transfer of ownership and in a venue, and the new owner was trying to, like, reverse all the deal, like, real time, like, end of the show, they're, like, trying to, like, renegotiate. So it's hard to know, right? Like, we were having good conversations up until then, but for the most part, like how I knew the good venues was, going in there and having access to the owner and real conversations and sitting down and just kind of seeing that they're excited to still do shows, man. They're not all jaded and pissed off either. If they haven't paid their fucking taxes and they got, they're mixing freaking Jameson with Crown Royal to fill a bottle, then it's probably not a good venue, man. Like you start catching on to their practices, but if they're like when I started working at Herman's Hideaway, I actually thought this place is kind of, I don't think, it's not really the venue that I need. I'm booking, City Hall, and I'm booking, AG venues, and I'm like, why would I do Herman's? But the excitement and the accessibility and the willingness to work with me and the knowledge that, the old crew had, I'm not saying I don't know what the new crew is now. It's a whole different venue altogether, but they were like really, that would be an example of what looked like it could be funky because it's an old room. There's some broken down walls, but those dudes like were hungry, bro. And if you're hungry, like I like working with people who are hungry. I don't know about you, man, but if you pair up with people who are hungry, like, then that's success in the making, right, bro? Like, there's that saying that says if you want to be a millionaire, don't hang out with people who are broke, right?
Right. No, that's legit right there. And so I've got a question here on some of these venues, and I only know rumors, but I keep hearing that a bunch of venues want a percentage of your merchandise now. You deal with any of that?
So for local bands, that should not be a thing, in my opinion. Like if you're local, I kind of feel like you got the local club card. You shouldn't get that tax cut. In my opinion, it's never really been a thing that I'm aware of, but I do know that the industry standard for a long, long time in the actual contract is, it's part of the negotiating tactics of the agents. So the agent's like, hey, dude, like, we want burritos and freaking tequila in the backstage, but, we do an 85-15 split and the guarantees this. So it's really something that they pitch to us as promoters, and they put it in their contracts. And so it is just kind of an industry standard. What's crazy about it is the bands come and they go, why are you taking a merch cut? I'm like, your agent freaking, that's what he's selling, bro. Like, if you don't like what he's selling, then tell him to stop doing it. What I start realizing, in my opinion, is I don't think it's great business practice, in my opinion, because merch just costs so much goddamn money. So my opinion of merch cuts is, I think that it's fair to negotiate it since it's just industry standard, but I always just put it in my back pocket. Like if the show did good, man, then it's a great time for me to walk up to a band and like, keep your merch, man. Like the show did great. Let's drink a beer. And they're like, oh my God, that's so cool. And it's like kudos to me to go back to their agent and, hey, let us keep 100% of the merch. But if the show didn't do great and y'all still want every burrito and tequila shot backstage, I might be like, well, you wanted everything. You wanted 45 items on your list. So it's fair for me to say, that merch cut might be valid in this point. You didn't give me a break. So it's kind of like a negotiating tactic, in my opinion. But I think in general, I think the practice should be a little bit less on the writer and just squash the merch cut,
with streaming and everything. And obviously, if you've got, some big well-known bands, but even like the bands in the middle, you know what I mean? It's like, it's really the only way you're making money nowadays is on merch. You know what I'm saying? Whatever money you're making, say even if it's Puddle of Mud, you've got a couple people on your crew, you're on the tour, you got the bus, you're making enough money night after night after night, and it's like that merch is where you're making your money. And so it's like, so I was just kind of shocked, and it's like, yeah, maybe this has been going on for a long time. But it's like now with no more record sales, no more CD sales, any of that, you're not getting, maybe some of like the, Madonna or whatever is getting radio stuff, but really it's merch. And so,
I mean, even for us, man, when we in Apathy, I mean, we were making, we'd bring 650 people to the Gothic, and given that there's a lot of comp tickets, but each one of those comp tickets were people drinking a ton of alcohol, and we didn't get a cut off the bar.
Right.
And so we were walking away with pennies, but we had a lot of people there to buy our merch. And so all of our band fund was all from merch, man. We had
Right.
cool enough merch that even
Right.
if you didn't like our music, that our merch looked cool and you might want to buy a shirt, you know? So I agree. I think for me, it's a tough one because knowing that I've had some shows that are like, they're kind of shit in the bed, it is kind of nice, like having some merch at the end. It's like, well, it's something, man. But I think in general, like at least towards the end of, when I started doing less gigs, I was more on the line of like not wanting to take merch cuts. I would say that I was rarely taking merch cuts because it just seemed like weird. Like as a musician, I didn't feel great about it. So I was more in tune with just giving them the merch unless it was just a complete shit show.
Yeah.
But it was nice having that in my back pocket because I'm thinking, well, if you're going to be a bunch of assholes, then I might want to, I don't know that I want to be over here reducing my, my leverage of what I can make on the show. So I think it's, that's why it's good for a band to treat their promoters well too. Because if you're treating me good, man, like I don't want your merch. I'm like, wow, like you guys are on the road, you're freaking working your ass off. But in general, I was leaning towards more of not taking any merch because it just didn't feel right in general,
Well, and I'm not even like trying to like place a judgment one way or the other. I'm just kind of shocked that it's even on the table. It's like how like is it like, okay, this the manager negotiated that you're giving me 10% of your merch, like, or whatever. But it just kind of blew my mind. Yeah, and especially just because nowadays nobody is making money on record sales. Maybe vinyls are coming back now, and there's some stuff, but not like it used to be. Not like it used to be.
It depends. Yeah. I mean, if you're Billie Eilish, you're still making a lot of money on record sales.
Absolutely.
But she has a product and vinyl is part of it, man. I mean, and so, but yeah, I agree, man. It's a weird one, but it is for a long, long time. I was taught it by the agents and managers. It's not something I asked for. They offered it.
I really appreciate the conversation. We've been going, I could sit here and talk to you all night, man, but towards the end here, I've got, like advice for some of these bands. Like, what do you think the biggest mistakes you see new bands making nowadays?
I think that they try to hit the ground running before their product is polished and before their business side of it is ready to be put out there into the world. They're not registered with, the Library of Congress. They don't have anything copywritten. They have no distribution. They don't have an EPK. I mean, I've gotten paragraph emails from bands who are actually, and some of them have been not bad. And I'm the kind of person that would be like, dude, like your email sucks, but I'm going to show up to your house. Like, where do you live? I want to see you play. But if you ever sent that to anybody else, they would have told you to F off. So like, the package isn't ready, man. So I think the mistake they're making is, they're going to waste a lot of time and they're going to have to make that time up. It's time they can never get back if they don't have a product that's ready from the business side and just their product in general, their stage presence and all that. Because let's just say you really do have a real dude in the audience that can really help you, and you're out there, you sound like shit. You don't even know, you don't have good tone. Someone's like, hey man, like I work for this, so and so company, and you guys have an EPK, and this band's like, what's an EPK? That's where the mistakes are made. They're losing what could have been a lot of groundwork, and they're having to go back and retrace their steps. So in my opinion, those are some of the biggest mistakes,
So explain an EPK.
Electronic press kit. Something that is at your fingertips, especially with our technology, that is going to display, in a synapse in a very small amount of time, who you are, where I can find your music, what you guys look like, kind of what you're selling, basically, in a very easy accessible file,
So the old manila envelope promo pack, just in a digital form.
Absolutely, man. And I'll tell you, I will spend hours going through EPKs because I enjoy it. I will spend minutes deleting emails that don't have anything attached to them.
Interesting. So what's one thing every band should do before approaching a promoter? Obviously, this is probably for locals, but
Yeah, for locals, I would say what every band should do is know who you are as a band, know who's representing you. If you don't have a manager, make sure you have the one voice, the person who's going to be the go-to. If you have 4 guys saying the same thing, asking the same questions, making somebody who's already busy as hell answer the same questions, it's probably not going to go well. Just having your model tight is going to go a long way. I think that, before you approach a promoter, you need to kind of think about these things, where it lies, who's going to handle what. Is one guy going to do the art, another guy's going to write the emails, another guy's going to handle the EPKs, and be professional, right? Like, your email should be professional, and if you're not getting accepted, just like if you're applying for a job, you want to put that word out on the street that you are a professional band, because that's going to go a long way. If you're getting a rejection and you're like, well, why would he reject me? We're awesome. And that promoter might read that email, and, response might be, hey, dude, thank you for your time. If you have a chance, please click on this video. I know we don't have a lot of experience. I might just click on that damn link. And I've done this before. And I'm like, whoa, I made a mistake. I should have listened. And then I want to book that band and give them a chance. So they're just in the handling of your business is going to go a long way. And accept that rejection, man, because, you're going to get, what do they say, 1,000 no's before you get one yeah?
Yeah.
It happens, man, and who am I? I'm not here. Music is subjective. The other thing I say is, even in all that, I say don't let anybody ever tell you who you are, man. Your art is your stuff, and one person down the street, it might be trash. The other person is treasure. And so, you have to believe in yourself and know that, if this is truly your calling and you believe this is what you should be doing, then, that's going to go a long way too, man. I don't know about you, but it's really hard to talk to someone who has zero confidence and give them support. They're like, oh, I think I'm good. I think I'm okay. Tell me why you kick ass, brother. Even if you don't have it, because here's the deal is there's a lot of professionals out there that's what they do, man. There's actually a lady that used to be the manager of Saliva. I believe her name's Jessica. She runs a company called A&R Girl, and I guess I'm giving her free promotion, but there's a lot of people like her that she's been through the whole industry, and her whole job is to help package your product. And it's not free, but if you're somebody that doesn't want to do it all from scratch by yourself, someone like her could be very valuable. Right. And then if she believes in you, she might be putting you in front of some people that matter, you never know.
Right.
But nobody can tell any band that, hey, dude, I can help you make it. That is a lie. If anyone ever promised you, any band, that, it's a lie. Because even the top people in the industry, I guess unless you're, L.A. Reid or one of those guys like that, yeah, he can, Simon Cowell can definitely make some decisions, right? But if you're a dude who's knows the business super well and has connections, they do not have the power to make L.A. Reid say yes or no. They can have the power to maybe present it. And this is why your product has to be so damn polished. Because once someone makes the decision to say, hey, I will present it to the people I know, sometimes you only get one shot. That's your one shot in front of the people. And, and so that's why it's that one shot sometimes, just like on these talent shows, man, they say, oh, 2 minutes can change your life. That's a fucking true statement, man. Imagine having 2 minutes on AGT stage and you're this musician that's never been noticed, and what that could do for your career. That's your one shot. So that's why you really want to be ready, man. These bands, what they're doing wrong is they're not ready for something. If something was to happen, they wouldn't know what to do with it in the first place.
Right.
So be ready, because if it does happen, then the sky could be the limit, in my opinion, man.
You should develop your business class for musicians. It's a great idea.
Yeah, it's a really good idea.
It is. You would be good at it. Obviously, you're well-rounded.
We'll see. I'll probably make that into a short too. That'll be a good short. But and for me, it's interesting because right now with the podcast, because I'm just doing it for fun, and and it's grown organically, and but sometimes I'm like, oh, these self-promoted dudes are kind of like my white whales, you know, like they're sick musicians. They record their own music, stuff like that. Like Mendel from Aborted. That was like one I was really looking forward to, you know, because he's got his fingers in so many different things. But a lot of times, yeah, it's even that way for me because I cold email these dudes. They don't know me. I'm nobody, you know? So I just send out an email. Hey, I've got this, you know, I used to play in a band that you don't know who the hell I am. And now I'm doing a podcast and you probably never heard of that either. You want to come on and talk to me? You know, and most of the time it's crickets. But every now and then, for every 10 emails I'll send, 1 or 2 will respond.
All those guys are super cool, man. I mean, you know, they're just willing to, like, they enjoy talking about their music and their stuff too, man. And that's just kind of what they do. You know, these guys, you know, some of the biggest rock stars, they're just born to just talk about what they do and talk about music. And I mean, a lot of them are still pretty cool people, man. There's a lot of, you know, I know I said there's a lot of assholes out there, but there's a lot of amazing people out there that truly have like good hearts, that really care, that, you know,
I'd
really
say it's like
have the best
80-20, you know? Maybe 70-30, you know?
Yeah. I mean, anything you do, there's going to be a percentage.
But shit, that has me thinking. It's like maybe I should set up, you know, a little chilling in the studio EPK when I send it to these guys. Like, oh no, this is what it is exactly. You know what I mean? So they just like, because they're probably seeing a million emails too. But so what's next for you, man?
You know, I'm the Bands for Bands thing is last show that I did was 5 months ago. It was Tommy Vex from Ex Bad Wolves, you know, the big hit cover song Zombie by the Cranberries. It got, you know, 300 million views on YouTube and, you know, almost 700 million on what is it? What's the big one?
Instagram.
No, TikTok. What's the other big music platform that I'm trying to think of?
Spotify. Yeah.
That just, you know, there's the old school coming out. I'm like, what is it called? What the hell? TikTok, God damn it. You know, I know. But you know, I booked him. It was kind of crazy. His voice was completely shot. He had gone through a vocal surgery. Yeah, amazing voice. You know, he was in Divine Heresy, you know, and all those bands, man. And I want to say he sung at least part-time for Five Finger Death Punch. So that was my last show. It was okay. I mean,
so are you done?
What's that?
Is Bands for Bands done? Did I see you post that?
No, I didn't know. It's not done. It's just on the back burner. I'm trying to figure out what I want to do with it, man. You know, I kind of went to this whole other part of my life of, you know, after COVID, you know, the whole venue thing and
oh man.
You know,
this show has gone way too long because I meant to ask you how hard it was in COVID, but I can just imagine it was probably brutal through COVID.
Brutal. I mean, it was like, I didn't even know what to do, man. I was like, what do I do? Right. There was like no answer, but what I did know was my money was depleting fast. Right. Like I was like, So I had to kind of, you know, I mean, obviously I have my daughter, I have, you know, she's my family, my house, you know, things, my dogs, my little universe here. And I'm like, I don't want it to sink. So I decided to kind of get some part-time work. I ended up, you know, going and taking some classes on you know, behavioral health and started working with kids with autism. And so and I do behavioral intervention. And with my music background, one of the public schools I work for asked if I could implement music therapy. So I got to bring my universe into their universe. And we have kids that were nonverbal completely, that are singing in microphones, that are reading lyrics, that are, I mean, they can't, you know, and there's things that open up their neural pathways with music. And so you know, I want to say this is the rest of my life, but I took a little detour into something that's very fulfilling, very interesting.
Absolutely. Super rewarding.
And very rewarding, man. If you can't see, but my arms have little scratches and marks. So they have high aggression with autism. So, you know, during a class, you might get an iPad chucked at your face or something like that, but no big deal, man, you know. But I'm not throwing in the towel for Bands for Bands. I'm trying to think of what I want to do with it next. I have a lot of ideas, so I think people are gonna have to stay tuned for that, man. But it's not done. But my life has taken a detour, so I can keep the ship afloat, man. It's been really cool. You know, I think it's important to take on new roles, and I think that, you know, as we get older, we're aging. We want to. It kind of teaches you about yourself a little bit, man. What you're made of, bro. You know.
Right. Because now, music that you're working on, you're still playing piano, right? Too. Because I don't know if we really touched on it, but Elan is an amazing pianist as well. I think I recorded. Was it Into Oblivion? Is that still what you call your piano stuff?
So now I just use my name.
Okay.
It's just Elan. I use the same graphic kind of like ambiance to how it looks and kind of portrays my style, but I decided just to use my name. I mean, no one really knew Into Oblivion. I was like, tell people about it, and like, huh? But, you know, I got 34,000 people on my mailing list that, you know, says Elan Schwartz on it, or, you know, and some of my followers, they know my name. So I feel like it was more valuable to just make a logo
Sure.
that has my name on it, and kind of that be the headline in itself. So Into Oblivion is still, it's funny because in my closet I have 5 or 6 discs from you. So you guys helped me with the distribution and everything. And I was looking at them, I was going to take a picture of one and post it. I'm like, look, I still got one of these. And so that whole project was super cool. I very much enjoyed that, but the new stuff, I think the new stuff I'm writing is definitely a step up, man. I'm excited to share that with people.
Awesome. Well, if you ever want to send me some tracks, send me some stems and stuff, dude, I'd be more than happy to freaking throw a little something on it. But so where can people follow your work, whether it's your music or just stay in touch? Obviously you said Elan Schwartz. Is there, do you got any of your music that's up? Obviously Apathy is probably up. Bandcamp, Spotify, things like that.
Yeah. So the old Apathy stuff, every record that we recorded is all on an Apathy. I don't know if it's .bandcamp. This is where I wish, you know, Ortiz, again, he's like the encyclopedia.
I'll get you. I'll put it up.
But it's definitely the Apathy Bandcamp, and it has everything. If you're an old Apathy fan or just want to see, it's all up there, and it's actually super amazing. I sometimes go on there myself, and I'll just be like, whoa, this is like bringing me back in time, and just listen to all the stuff that we did, and it's amazing. So I don't have, you know, for my piano stuff, it's just still in the works. It's very organic. It was a project that, I don't know if you remember, but I was originally dedicating the entire album to my daughter, you know, before she was born. And so it was very like personal, and it was kind of just in my little camp, but it's grown into like where I think I want to share it more. I post little videos, and that's all it really is right now. So I'm looking to get into the studio, so not just chill in the studio. You know. But you know, you can find me on Facebook, you know, .com, Bands for Bands Entertainment, or B for B Talent and Entertainment, or just my name, man. It's out there, and that's where I'm going to be posting some of this new stuff. And Instagram, same thing, B for B Talent. TikTok, Elan of Bands for Bands, and so forth.
Cool.
But dude, this has been awesome, man. This is actually, truly enjoyed this conversation. You know, when you're talking to people that understand, like, it just, all these light bulbs go off. And I think you and I just have always naturally, I've always respected you, brother. You're a good dude, man. You're a friend in the music industry, and just a friend in general, man. So I appreciate you,
bro.
you know.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I always had. I loved you guys' bands. You're great musician. The piano stuff's phenomenal. I want to kind of doing a little remaster on the one just to kind of share it, because I was trying to pull some gigs off of Fiverr, and it's great, man. You got a lot of talent, and I'm always rooting for you, bro. So thank you very much for coming on the show. Thank you, Kim, for hanging in.
Thanks, Elan.
It's Tony getting steamrolled, but it was Kim today.
Right on, Kim. Hey, you know what, Kim? It was amazing to see you. I know the last time I came to your house, and I feel like we had a barbecue or a party or something, and then before that, it was just us collaborating in the Tone Lab, and and so no, I don't. I'm guessing your kids are a lot bigger now. I remember them being pretty small, man. So. You know, no, it's definitely great to see both of you, even though we're remote, virtual. But hopefully one day we can cross paths in person again and maybe rock out. And yeah, I would love to take you up on that offer for some stems, man. I think that, that would be great.
Great. Well, all right, man. Hey, everybody, thanks that stayed till the end, and we appreciate you coming by and checking us out. Don't forget, we're up every week. These drop every Tuesday, and so don't forget to like, rate, and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one, man. Thanks. Take care.
Awesome. Thank you.